Before Rome ruled an empire, before its armies conquered the world, a fragile cluster of mud brick huts stood perched on the edge of the Tiber, surrounded by hostile tribes. How did this vulnerable village become one of the greatest powers in human history? This is the story of Rome, and this is where it all began. To understand the colossal superpower this city would eventually become, we first have to look closely at its vulnerable and deeply violent origins. According to Roman tradition, the city's timeline kicks off in 753 BC, with twin infants, Romulus and Remus. Abandoned and left for dead, they survived only after being nursed by a feral she-wolf. But the myth turns brutal almost immediately. As adults, the brothers' rivalry escalated until Romulus murdered Remus, cementing himself as the sole founder and namesake of Rome. Legends, however, don't feed populations. The real reason this settlement survived was its geography. It sat right on the Tiber River, providing a steady lifeline for regional trade and commerce. Surrounding that river were steep hills. For a small village constantly facing raids from neighboring tribes, elevation offered crucial tactical high ground. Geography offered a physical shield, but geographic luck alone does not build empires. For its first few centuries, the Roman population was politically trapped, ruled from the top down by an unbroken line of kings. Early Rome was an absolute autocracy. A single ruler held complete authority over the law, the military, and the people. The breaking point arrived with the final king, Lucius Tarquinius Superbus, better known as Tarquin the Proud. Tarquin ran a brutal administration. His endless demands and abuses of power achieved the exact opposite of what a dictator wants. It united the wealthy aristocratic and the ordinary citizens against him in deep resentment. The absolute concentration of power under Tarquin became an existential threat to the city from within. A violent societal rupture was now unavoidable. Around 509 BC, the monarchy was overthrown. The Romans drove Tarquin out and permanently rejected the idea of singular rule. In its place, they invented a massive political innovation, the Republic. They intentionally fractured authority to ensure another tyrant could never rise again. Political power was divided among elected officials, an elite senate, and various citizen assemblies. This system was incredibly messy. The Republic was defined by bitter, constant class conflict between powerful patrician families and the ordinary plebeians. This friction between the classes forced the Romans to develop new offices and legal codes just to keep the city from tearing itself apart. These constant internal negotiations created a government that learned to pivot and reform, giving the Republic a structural resilience that allowed it to survive as the city's footprint expanded. That adaptability at home soon translated to the battlefield, slowly turning this small city into a dominant regional power. Rome frequently suffered catastrophic defeats on the battlefield, but the Republic treated its losses as a tactical autopsy. They analyzed enemy formations, discarded failed strategies, and returned with a force that had evolved to overcome its previous killers. This brutal cycle of warfare forged the core Roman identity. It embedded intense discipline and determination into the citizenry, allowing them to endure immense pressure. It created a relentless engine of war. Every victory secured new territory, but every new border inevitably introduced Rome to a new enemy. Rome's dominance was not built overnight. The Republic functioned as an anvil, where constant external threats repeatedly hammered the city into a lethal, hardened superpower. The iconic vision of Roman legions crossing mountains and dominating the Mediterranean is still centuries away, but an existential threat was already looming. Across the sea sat a massive, wealthy civilization, one that would soon push Rome to the very brink of annihilation. Before Rome could conquer the world, it first had to prove it could survive the world around it, and this was only the beginning. To be continued in Episode 2. Next episode, The Republic That Conquered the World. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to History Stories Dose so you never miss the next chapter of history.